Hello and welcome to another episode of Bicycle Touring Talk. My name is George Schlacek.
The one and only.
In 2017, I rode my bicycle from the west coast of Canada to the east coast. It was the longest bicycle tour I've ever done, distance-wise. When I finally reached central Ontario, my wife Barbara joined me for part of the way, and since I have family in Ontario too, the plan got tweaked a bit to visit them. By bicycle, of course. So Barbara and I had left Mississauga, first going west, then south. My daughter and her family lived in Welland, so that's where we were headed. On Saturday, July 22nd, we woke up at the NET campground in Pelham. We got up sort of early and made use of the picnic table at the campsite for a quick breakfast. The sky was very gray. We were concerned about rain, so we didn't waste any time taking down our tent. Barbara had washed her shorts the night before, but they weren't completely dry yet, so we stopped at the laundry room on our way out of the campground. We also had to stop at the office to rid us of the silly wristbands they had put on us the night before. The NET Camping Resort might be alright if you're into bingo or something, and the camping facilities are actually quite alright, but for cycling tourists, it's a bit on the pricey side. The wristbands made us feel like cattle. It was a relief to get out of there. Our route to Welland was via roads 24 and 29, neither of which was really good for cycling. We had the choice between a rough gravel shoulder and a narrow strip of pavement beside the white line. Due to heavy traffic, we stayed mostly on the gravel. The going was slow. Barbara's bicycle was riding quite well for an economic model, but the seat was starting to give her trouble. This was day 3 for her. Riding a bike with a new budget-level seat on a long bike tour is never a good idea. But what could we do? We decided that the seat needed to be replaced at the soonest opportunity. Eventually, we reached Welland. Since Jessica and her husband were not going to be home until late that afternoon, we decided to go eat before finding their house. We ended up at a rundown donut shop that served full breakfast and was full of interesting customers. Downtown Welland seemed to be full of strange characters that would stick out almost anywhere. The place was across from the bus terminal, and Jessica later told us that we had ended up at one of the weirdest places in town. The food wasn't great, but it was edible. Later, we found Jessica's house and waited for a while, then decided to go to Canadian Tire to look for a bicycle seat for Barbara. We found a Schwinn seat with memory foam, and it was installed and adjusted easily enough right there on the spot. It seemed to be a significant relief for Barbara's behind. When we returned to Jessica's house, it didn't take long before the family rolled in with their diesel pickup. It was great to see my daughter and her guy, and the 2 boys, my grandsons, after more than 6 months. My 2 grandsons definitely aren't babies anymore. As it happened, there was a rib fest in town. After pitching our tent behind the house, we all went there together in Jordan's pickup, slightly overcrowding the cab. The festival was fun for the kids. There were bouncing castles with slides and stuff. Hunter, the youngest, was not really of adequate height yet, but he was unstoppable. That changed when the security person spotted the boys and told Jessica that they needed wristbands to be allowed on the structure. For Forrest, the older one, it was alright. But Hunter was screaming his head off trying to get that damn wristband off. It was the exact same type of wristband we had been required to wear at the NET camping resort. I could totally relate to my grandson's struggles. We returned to the house after dark, watched some videos and chatted till late at night before going to sleep in our tent in the backyard. Sunday, July 23rd, we took our time getting up. Jessica and her family had to go to a convention with their boys, and we had the morning to ourselves. We used it to do some exploring around Welland, including a trip to McDonald's for coffee. We found a nice cycling trail on Canal Island with lots of animals like squirrels and ducks and geese. It was beautiful. The weather was picture perfect and pretty hot and humid. We thought we had the way back to Jessica's all figured out, but the island really was an island and there was no bridge or other connection back to town, so we ended up having to backtrack all the way, same way we had taken to get to McDonald's and the lift bridge. Later, we just took it easy at the house. Jessica had to go to work for a few hours and we kept the boys company. At the end of the day, we took the family out for supper at a local restaurant. We still had a lot of catching up to do after we got back to the house. We also ended the day with a movie on Netflix. For Barbara and I, it had been the first rest day since we had left Mississauga. We had still cycled about 15 kilometers, but at a leisurely pace and without luggage. Barbara was still sore from 3 days of riding with a cheap seat. The new seat seemed to be a huge improvement, but it is really impossible to tell on just a few short rides. I know the feeling of having raw skin from riding on poor saddles, so I was a bit worried about her. The bike had already proven itself as a solid, all-round means of transportation. We made plans to pass it on to Jessica after our tour together because she needed a good commuter bike. Next on the agenda for us was a gradual return to the GTA from where I would carry on eastward. But first, we were going to spend a visit to Niagara Falls, and that's what I'm going to talk about in the next episode. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one. If so, please hit the like button. It helps my channel. You can also enjoy other videos in this series as it already covers more than half of the trip across Canada. See you again soon. Woohoo!